All right, peace and blessings, everyone, and greetings, and assalamu alaikum, and peace be unto you. Welcome back to the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. We're usually gracing your screens every Thursday, but this is a special Tuesday edition of the STEM Files. We're going to be talking with Dr. Boyce Watkins about how Black people can use science to build wealth. This is a very, very interesting and important topic to not only myself, Jabril, but I'm sure Dr. Watkins and everybody who is listening who would like to, just explore other avenues of how to build wealth for themselves and their families. So, family, please stay tuned for more after this.
You believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teach men, we teach them heavy.
All right, family. Once again, welcome back to the STEM Files. We serve as the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. I am Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I'm a biomedical research scientist with a concentration in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. I'm always joined by my right hand, Jabril.
Yes, sir. Peace, love, and blessings, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrillion Engineer. I'm a civilian mechanical engineer with a focus on naval ship fluid systems and a background in material science and engineering, the study of the various material classes and how they can be used for different applications, making things stronger, faster, lighter, more efficient, more effective. Let's get it. I'm super excited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Awesome. And once again, family, this is the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. You can find all of our social media handles at the STEM Files on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Hosted by Tariq Cardiac, myself, and Jabril underscore engineer. And family, Jabril, would you like to go into what tonight's episode is dedicated to, or who tonight's episode is dedicated to?
Yes, sir, absolutely. So, family, for those in the Nation of Islam or close to the Nation of Islam, this episode is dedicated to our dear and late brother, student minister Jabril Muhammad, a longtime confidant, friend of not only the Nation of Islam, but close, dear friend of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and was very intrinsic and crucial to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan standing back up after the initial fall of the Nation of Islam. So, very quickly, I'd like to read the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's official letter about our dear brothers. So Minister Louis Farrakhan, National Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, on the passing of Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad, in the name of Allah, the Never the Merciful. The Nation of Islam has lost a great minister, a great teacher, a great brother, a great friend, and a great helper to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and to me personally. Words will never be adequate enough to describe what this man has meant to our nation, to the messenger, to me, and to the cause of Islam. I pray that Allah will give me what He desires me to say to the world at a national gymnastics service in honor of Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad at the National Center, Mas Mariam, which will be held at a date and time forthcoming. Assalamu alaikum. I am your brother and servant, Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, servant to the Lost Foundation of Islam in the West. Very quickly, Tariq, a quick story. And I don't think you know this. So, my mother and father, when they were pregnant with me, had a dinner with Brother Student Minister Jabril, and because of how they were received in that conversation, they decided to name me after him specifically.
Wow,
so
wow.
When I found out, it definitely hit me, but we want to make sure that this is a show and this is a platform he can be proud of, and hope that you all are very proud of and take a lot from tonight's platform and what we discussed. So thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely, bro. And that's a beautiful story. As a matter of fact, you know, brother Minister Jabril has left a legacy on the STEM Files. He's had family members on here. Our beloved sister Naima Kushmir, one of his children, adopted children, who is a meteorologist, has been on the STEM Files for about 3-4 times now, and his legacy has definitely left its trace on the STEM Files and the work we do on this platform. So may Allah forever be pleased with our dear brother. So let's get right to it. We have a very special guest on with us this evening, Dr. Boyce Watkins. He is a financial expert, entrepreneur, media mogul, whole lot of things. And we're going to be talking about, just how Black people can use science and technology, because this platform is about science and technology, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to kind of pivot what Dr. Boyce Watkins is really known for talking about and pivot it towards STEM in a
Mhm.
sense. So I'm excited for tonight's program. We have the Black Math Academy in here with us. We have Savior's Day 2X, I think, watching us. And family, please keep drop your locations, or what city and what state you represent as you're watching the STEM files. But let us stop yapping. The show is not about us. It is about our guests. So Dr. Boyce Watkins, thank you so much for joining the platform. How are you, sir?
Thank you, brothers, for having me. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. And you know, I I think about when, as you were talking about your brother Jabril and Minister Farrakhan and just all these people that mean so much to the community. I still think about how God somehow made it almost accidental that when I moved to Chicago in 2013, the person that was kind of managing me at the time, I said, look, I was a person who was working all the time. I'm more, I'm a financial scientist, right? Because we use the scientific method to do our research and all.
Come on.
And so I was just in the lab all the time, just always working. So I just said, just find me a place in Chicago, anywhere. I don't care, just whatever. And so she found the place, and I liked it. I went to visit. I was like, oh, this is nice. And I moved in, and I'm the kind of person that doesn't care what kind of carpet, what kind of, like, nothing. Just, I got a bed and a big screen TV to watch the games on. I'm all right. And so I went out for a walk one day, and I said, I feel like this. I've been in this neighborhood before, when I visited Chicago. And so I'm walking a couple blocks, and then I said, wait a minute, Barack Obama's house was 2 blocks from where I live.
Right.
And then I walked a couple blocks the other direction. I said, I think that's Minister Farrakhan's house. And so just literally without me even planning it, I ended up living around the corner from the minister, and I got a chance to come over there a couple of times. And I'll tell you that you know what it is. The brothers from the nation don't mess around; they run deep. So you can't go creeping around the house and stuff. And but so I would go over there, and I'll tell you what. I think the best conversation I ever got a chance to have was when I got to sit with the minister for a while and just draw that wisdom. And what really impressed me was that I'd never really seen a person at that stage in life who could just have that kind of energy for such a sustained period of time. Like the same energy and passion he has when he's speaking to 10,000 people, he had that same energy and passion when it was just me and him. And that says a lot to me. I saw the same thing with people like Cornel West. And we have these people in the community that may have differing, points of view, but these are people that just, I think, are beacons of light, because I think that a lot of those skills in terms of energy management and focus and commitment, that's transferable. I really think that every Black man on the planet should just find some person that or group of individuals that they can look to and say, okay, I'm going to try to match that energy. It's like being trained to be a prize fighter or an athlete or anything like that. Except we need those intellectual athletes too, which we do have. They just don't get the same amount of attention as basketball and football players. But I just really think that same sort of fiery commitment and fearlessness and strength and all that, just that soldier mindset, that makes us unstoppable. I really believe that. I believe that we cannot let the world feminize us. I just, that was just a thought that went through my head as you were speaking earlier. I was really impressed by that.
All praise to Allah. We appreciate your testimony of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That was greatly appreciated. It's always good to have unexpected gems come through on the STEM files, and that was definitely one of them. And with us being followers of the Honorable, students of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we are very, very serious about representing him in a way that is not only positive, but also nation building in the sense of our activity. So We didn't bring you to a platform to just, talk about nothing. We brought you to this platform to talk about, science and technology, of course, and definitely appreciation for the Nation of Islam, but also how you've been able to use STEM or science and technology to build your own personal wealth. So we'll definitely go into that. But just to kind of set the tone for tonight's program, right? We have people like Dr. Lonnie Johnson, right? Brothers like, Tech is the New Black, and Freddie Figures, who developed his own technology company, smartphones and other types of devices. These are individuals who have been able to use science and technology to build a great amount, not a great amount, but a good amount of wealth, right? They are not poor by any means. And these brothers have been able to take what they've learned in college or wherever and capitalize on that and build a legacy for their family. So what would you say is the first step for someone who is in the sciences, a chemist, a mathematician, an engineer, or what have you, to really take what they know out of college? Because just because you went to college doesn't mean you know how to build wealth. Right.
In fact, sometimes college makes it harder for you to build wealth.
There you go. Right. So come on. So give us some, some insight as to, what are the top 3 things that somebody can do in these fields to guarantee or to put them on a path towards wealth?
I can't say I have a ready-made list of 3 things, but I'm gonna let God talk through me, and whatever comes out. I will say this, one of the things about being a scientist is that people have to understand that when you're trained in science, you have a leg up on everybody else. I taught on college campuses, and there's a difference between, say a major in a social science versus somebody who's a major in like engineering. And, the engineering students, they really get rigorous training. Like, you can't go to college and mess around and get a degree in engineering. You can't. Whereas, I knew some people that were studying business management, who studied 2 hours a week and would still find a way to get by. In engineering and mathematics, things like that, it's really hard to fake it. And the level of rigor required to get through is just much, much higher. So what happens is that you have to know that there's a difference between being smart and thinking big, right? You have some people who are very smart, and what happens is, and I saw this a lot with a lot of PhDs, some of the smartest people on the planet, what they would do is they would do really small things really, really well. Their ability to think big, their ability to sort of be imaginative and bold and have all these other intangibles required for high levels of success had been kind of killed off because they were spending all their time focusing on some tiny little problem. Sometimes it was a problem that only maybe 20 people on earth even cared about. And I saw that, and I felt like that was a little bit of a waste. So if I had a choice between being a highly intelligent person who thinks small versus a person with mediocre intelligence who thinks big, I'd rather be the person with mediocre intelligence who thinks big, because whatever they do, they're going to do bigger things, right? So you're talking about building big wealth or whatever it is that people want to do, big platforms, big schools, big anything. So I would say that that's the first thing, right? Science requires an attention to detail for sure, but you can't let that attention to detail to cause you to have a very limited scope and perspective. One example is Steve Jobs was a big visionary, right? When he created Apple, and he worked with this engineer. I forgot his name. It doesn't matter. But this engineer could make those circuit boards. I don't know if it was Wojciech, whatever his name is. I don't remember his name. But anyway, he would make these circuit boards. And Jobs saw the big picture. He said, man, if I can take these, things, I can pay this guy $50 per board, and then I can go back and I can sell these for $500, right? I can make a killing. That's what he did. And all the engineer was thinking about was, I just like science, I just like computers, and that's it. Whereas Jobs was seeing, Apple and the big vision, right?
That's a conglomerate,
yeah. So I think that when you are a scientist, whatever your field is, one thing that's essential in my view is that you have to understand how many transferable skills you gain by being a good scientist. And if the thing you're doing isn't fulfilling you or isn't giving you what you want, you could take that same rigor, the same scientific method, the same analytical ability, and apply that to a lot of things. Like, for example, I used to play competitive poker, and I was good. I've won some tournaments with hundreds of people in them. It's a great game of psychology, strategy, and math. Well, being a scientist helped me be a great poker player, because I knew how to understand and analyze the dynamics of the game and who was doing what and how to intimidate people, or how to read signals and send misinformation, and and it was fascinating, right? So I think that's the first thing you got to understand, is that learning that science, whatever it is, whether you're talking about a dentist or an engineer, or everything in between, you've gained a skill set that can be applied to a lot of things. Another thing I would look at too is look at the difference. Look at Elon Musk, for example. Elon Musk is an engineer who happens to be one of the richest people on the planet. Elon easily, if he were thinking differently, he could have easily just been a guy who worked for Apple and was like the best programmer in his department, and making, maybe $250,000 a year or something, right? Really thinking that he'd reached the heights of his profession, right? What led Elon to become that billionaire, multi-billionaire, was that he took that scientific skill that he had, and he used that to help him understand technology, which allowed him to scale what he was doing. So you scale it, and all that's happening really is you're doing the same little thing, same little transactions, but you're doing it like a million times, right? So I sell you a $5 product, but I sell 1 million of them. Well, guess what? I got $5 million now, right? Which is very different from, say, the other ways of thinking that I grew up around, like, where you're trading time for money. Okay, if you work 1,000 hours, you make $40 an hour, you get $40,000. But actually, the better way to make money is through things like systems. And who understands systems better than STEM folks, right? We understand. Right. We can analyze systems. We can break it down. And so I would encourage anybody that is a scientist or has children who are scientifically oriented, approach wealth building just like you would approach any other science. You mentioned being a scientist of the heart. Well, you can study the systems that cause the heart to operate and keep analyzing and breaking down and seeing how those systems connect, and then figuring out the most efficient way to train those systems or to fix those systems, right? Well, wealth and economics is a system. Capitalism is a system, right? And so when I look at capitalism and I look at wealth and I look at economics and all that, I just say, okay, let's look at this system and figure out where the money's at, how to position yourself to receive it, and why Black folks don't get the share that we deserve. And then what happens is it just becomes abundantly clear to me. It's very the way I view the whole wealth thing is that it's actually quite easy to build lots and lots and lots and lots of wealth if you simply apply certain things like time. Like time is the same way you have certain types of food where they say add water. Like you take some powdered potatoes or something and they say add water, and then somehow it turns into mashed potatoes. Like that, right? Well, wealth is the same way. You take all this hard work and this ingenuity, and then you add time, and then eventually it turns into wealth. And so for example, one of the things we do in the Black business schools, we have something called a $5 a day investing plan, where literally I just say, okay, here's all you do. You just set on autopilot, automatically deposit $35 a week or more into some sort of S&P 500 mutual fund. I even tell the students what to buy. I say, look at SPY, which is an S&P 500 fund, where you're invested in the strongest companies in America. They're not going to lose money. They know how to make money. So you're tying your fate onto them. You're tying your boat onto them. And another one is VOO, Victor Oscar, which is a Vanguard fund. Buy that consistently and just make sure you don't sell. Make sure every week you buy at least $35 a week, set it on autopilot, and then just don't forget about it. And then pour in the last ingredient, which is time, right? After 10 years, you got about $29,000 in liquid wealth, give or take a couple thousand. After 20 years, you got $102,000 in liquid wealth. After 30 years, you have $250,000 in liquid wealth. Anybody can do it. Or at least 99% of us can do it because $5 a day, you can't even buy a Popeye's chicken value meal for $5 a day, right? For $5, right? So when people say, well, Black people can't afford to invest. I say, but can Black people afford chicken? And and we know they can't afford chicken because we know Popeyes makes billions from our community, right? So I just say, don't argue with me, please. I'm the scientist, I'm the doctor. Just trust my judgment on this. So I think that for scientists, approach building wealth the same way you approach any sort of scientific inquiry. And what you will find is that just like everything else, it has a formula. Figure out the formula.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that was a good 15-minute opener of the program.
I know. I didn't know if I wanted to get to the short.
It's all good. We appreciate it. Jabril, you want to take over real quick?
very quickly, you gave us, thank you for opening this up that way. You had my mind going in several different directions. You made me think about three core sciences that were taught in the Nation of Islam, were kept from us, the people: science of business, science of warfare, science of mating. You also brought up capitalism, and a question that I had, based on my sifting social media and seeing where a lot of our people's minds are as far as Black liberation. I see a lot of what appears to me as equating Black capitalism or increased Black capitalism to Black liberation. My question to you is there a difference between Black capitalism and Black liberation? If so, what is that difference, and why is it important for us as a people to understand if we're going to be successful in our liberation struggle?
Yeah, let me tell you this. Whenever anybody tells me that I'm a Black capitalist, I have to correct them and say, no, I'm not, because I know too much about capitalism to be fully committed to it. Capitalism is very powerful economically. It's a great way to make money. You can almost think about it, but it's almost like a type of economic gangsterism. Gangsters
Right.
and mafia families, they know how to make money. They know where to find the money. They go beat you up and take it, and they end up, driving the nice cars and having the fancy suits and all that. But there's a lot of damage that comes with that, a lot of pain, a lot of oppression, a lot of mistreatment, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of warfare, a lot of consequences that come to that type of approach to making money. So I am not a capitalist, actually, because especially in America, capitalism is what's going to destroy America. Capitalism, the gap between the rich and the poor has continuously accelerated over time. The government debt is now at $32 trillion. Our debt to GDP ratio in 1960 was about 52%. In 1980, it dropped to 34%. Debt to GDP is like debt to income, basically. People know they look at debt to income when you buy a house. Now that debt to GDP ratio that used to be 34% is now at 122%. Right. So literally, we are drowning ourselves in debt. And a lot of this is because we have so much capitalism in the society that rich people get offended when you ask them to pay an extra 1% in taxes to help the government, get out of its deficits. And then the pandemic, they were just throwing money around, sloshing it around. The pandemic was the biggest economic robbery in the last 50 years in terms of all the fraud. There was $200 billion worth of PPP loan fraud. That was predictable because they were throwing out all this money, and it was really a trap. It was a setup because they made it so easy to get the money that people thought they could just lie on the paperwork and get that money. And they don't understand when the government comes back and tries to recoup their lost funds, they're going to send you to prison 10, 20 years. That's why you see some of these social media influencers that were driving around in Bentleys and Benzes and all that.
Straight to jail.
Their Rolexes, they're going to jail, right? But it's entrapment because they made it, they set it out there, they put the bait out there, and then people grab the bait, and then they come back and get the money later. It's terrible. So long story short, our country is very bad with money. It goes all the way to the very top, and also capitalism creates a mindset of just tremendous greed. It's very, very sad to me because most of these social problems, in terms of a lot of the homelessness and starvation and working class people, they can't even get by on minimum wage. These problems can easily be solved if we just simply learn the meaning of the word enough. We don't know that. You got people running around here with $100 billion in the bank, and if you take $2 billion of it to go keep some people alive, they get offended, like, oh, you're violating my rights. And or you look in the healthcare system, we spend more on healthcare than every other country on earth by a long shot. But our healthcare system, the quality of it is ranked about 31st or 32nd behind Costa Rica and a lot of third world countries. So capitalism has not served America well. It's allowed opportunity, right? See, that's the other thing too. We think that that somehow some people, not everybody thinks this way. Like, this is why I love my brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam, because I don't get that energy of victimhood. I get the energy that where we see our potential and we know all the great things we can do. That's what draws me to that energy, because I'm not trying to be no black man sitting around here complaining about how the white man won't let me do nothing. Right? I don't bow to another man that way. That's never going to happen. So effectively, generally speaking, capitalism also, while it certainly creates a lot of problems and toxicities in our society, it does create a lot of opportunities. You can't tell me that a person, like, for example, I've never met a white man who told me I could not read a book if I wanted to. I never met a white man who told me I couldn't take care of my kids. I never met a white man who told me I couldn't start a business. That man, I've never run into him, and if I met him, I'd probably beat him up. So the point of the matter is to say that that some of this this mindset that we have that America is a country that has no opportunities. It's just wrong. And I encourage people to kind of reconsider that. So with that being said, here's the thing about capitalism. It is a powerful economic engine. It's like a sports car that, but unfortunately in America, imagine having a sports car where you're driving the car 220 miles an hour down the road. You know, you're going faster than you could have otherwise, but you're going to crash. And when you crash, it's going to hurt. You're going to hurt somebody. Why not take that sports car though? Imagine though, if you say, you know, I'm not going to go 200 something miles an hour. That's crazy. But I will go 140 miles an hour or 110. Right. And I'm going to make sure I'm safe. Safety first, seat belts, you know, GPS systems, whatever we got to put on this car to make it safe. But we're going to be rolling down this road. That makes more sense to me. Right. That's a little more logical. And so free enterprise is where the opportunity is. That's where the power is. If you look back at Black Wall Street and how O.W. Gurley created Black Wall Street and the culture he created within Black Wall Street, it was not a capitalist culture. It was not one of those I win at all costs. I gotta have it all. I gotta be number one. Right? You know, capitalism is gluttonous. It doesn't. You know, companies think about this. There are companies that will make $10 billion, and then next year they'll make $9 billion, and they'll say, "Well, this year was a complete failure because we only made $9 billion." And I'm thinking, like, you still made $9 billion. That's
right.
But what happened was the stock price, because of capitalism, was based on the assumption that you're not going to make 10 billion next year. You're going to make 11 billion. And if you don't make 11 billion, then you have failed. That is not true. Right. And also you don't have to be number one, you know. So I'm a fan of, especially for our community, because we're trying to build and we're trying to grow. I'm a fan of us studying our own economic history in this country and around the world to learn ways where you can be prosperous and successful without it being just this always competitive and always sort of I mean, it's okay to be competitive with the outside world, but I don't think we have to be competitive with each other. You know, like you, if you're doing well as a Black man and I'm doing well as a Black man, how come we can't both do well together and replace that competitive energy with collaborative energy and talk about how well we can do working together? That's what Black Wall Street was all about. O.W. Gurley set up rules that incentivize all of the business owners to support each other and help each other succeed. And instead of sort of making it something where some group was going to dominate everybody else. So I think that Black capitalism will not lead to liberation. Black capitalism will lead to more enslavement, because capitalism is designed to enslave people. They do it all across America. The student loan crisis is a great example. You know, that's what they do. It's a modern day sharecropping. They get you so deep in debt that this is why they're never going to cancel student loans. Remember, it's their fault. The same people you're asking to cancel student loans are the same ones who locked you into those loans, who caused the crisis in the first place. It's like asking the guy who put roaches in your house to come and be your exterminator. No, he makes money by you having roaches, and he cleans just enough roaches out of your house for you to really think you need him. When really he needs to be as far away from your house as possible. So they're never going to end the student loan crisis because they need people to be forced to go to work. After the pandemic, they couldn't get anybody to go to work because everybody started sitting around and reflecting on how much of their life they started thinking. Karl Marx had this critique of capitalism, and I agree with him 100% on this. He said, you don't understand that when you're sitting around and you're just a laborer all the time and you're working for these wealthy people all day, you're missing your life. You're missing your children. You're missing all the things that matter in life. And so people started thinking about that during the pandemic. So what happened? After the pandemic, a lot of people didn't want to go to work anymore. So they were like, damn, how do we get people to go back to work? Well, that's right. Well, the student loans, they're going to have to start paying their loans again. And once that economic weight hits them, they're going to be forced right back into our arms. Okay. So ultimately, what I would say is that in general, Black capitalism is not going to liberate anybody. Capitalism is designed to enslave people, especially poor people and working class people. You see it all around America. But Black free enterprise and Black economics, if done diligently and ethically, can liberate us from a lot of the oppression that we experience as a community. And that's my 2 cents on that. I know
you good.
Go crazy, Doc. Go crazy.
Absolutely. But we got a clip that we found on your YouTube channel that we wanted to play because it spoke volumes to us, really, because you were talking about, of course, the trades, and then you were also talking about going to college and not being able to properly use your degree to free yourself in a sense, you know. So I wanted to kind of put that up there, and then we're going to get your response on that, as well as something from the message to the black man. So Jabril, can you put it up real quick?
Yes, sir.
And I'll let you know when to stop.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I'm about to go to my flight lesson, and I wanted to share this message with you because it was on my spirit, and I thought that it might help us to understand how to solve a problem in terms of us building wealth as a community. I thought to myself, I said, you know, I think that we don't understand why Black wealth in Black communities are not being rebuilt. I believe that a lot of the reason Black communities are not being rebuilt is because we think that either A, it's the job of white people to do it, which isn't ever going to happen. We're not, you know, we're building for them. I don't think they're building for us. And I don't know if we really want that because we won't have any control or any power. And then number two, Black professionals are ill-equipped to build Black wealth. And what do I mean by that? Well, think about it. If you go to college and get a bachelor's degree, and all you know how to do is run an office or get a job or even a professional, so you know you're a dentist or something, it's really hard to build a community when most of the people that come out of your community are not trained to build. You know, in order to build something, you need builders, right? So that means you need people that know how to start businesses, number one. You also need people that know how to do things. You need skilled trades. They have to be able to have, you know, I'd take plumbers, carpenters, and HVAC people over, you know, accountants and marketers and business managers any day of the week. Not to say that one group is not important and that the other one is, but to say that that it's the plumbers and carpenters and HVAC people and people that know how to build houses and develop infrastructure. Those are the ones that can actually develop an entire community, right? So what you really need is you need to mix. We need to go back to the days where we actually had people that had real skill and not just, you know, student loans and bachelor's degrees. That is how you actually build a community of people that are able to actually develop something from scratch and grow it into something worthwhile. So that's my 2 cents. I wanted to share that with you. As you know, my Instagram is down for now. We're getting it back.
All right, so that was our brother, Dr. Boyce Watkins, talking about the trades. He was talking about Black professionals or what have you, and a lot of this comes from, you know, thinking that you're on mute, bro. You good?
No, I wasn't trying to say anything.
Oh, okay, got you. I thought I saw your lips. I thought you were trying to say something, but no. So you made a good point in your video about most Black professionals not being equipped because when they come out of college, they get the degree, and that's pretty much it. You know, they're not taught how to take what they learn and build a reality for themselves. So we have a piece from Message to the Black Man saying that we have enough technicians such as mathematicians, construction engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, physicists, chemists, educators, agriculturalists, navigators, and aeronauts among the 22 million of us. This is from Message to the Black Man. Now, I'm tying these two together because we have to understand that the Black professional and the Black tradesman have to come together to be able to work together to build a reality, right? So for those Black professionals, the dentists, your chemists coming out of college, and they have this knowledge and they have this skill set, what is the best way to go about actually using it to build a reality for themselves and their people? I'm gonna throw out a case study out there, right? We got a chemist who just got their degree in organic chemistry, and they get ready to go work for Monsanto, or they get ready to go work for DuPont or something like that. How would you recommend that they take what they have and actually do something for themselves rather than going to these companies or using these companies as a steal away and then eventually building something for themselves?
Okay. I'm gonna say this. In the Black Business School, and also my book, it's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I talk extensively about one model that we put together called the 3 C's of building your own economy. And the reason that I put that model together was because I think sometimes we forget that the best way to overcome a toxic or corrupt system is to leave that system and create another system. That's it. When we talk about fighting racism, I don't know how easy it is for me to win a fight with another man when I'm inside his house playing by his rules and on his territory, right? So effectively we're fighting a battle that in the eyes of many becomes a losing battle. Well, why are we trained to fight that battle? Well, because what you're trained on from birth, in my opinion, is you're trained to believe that as a black man that you absolutely must engage the white man on his turf and in his companies and in his organizations, and that if he don't want you, then nobody will. And those are the elements of an abusive relationship. That's what a pimp does to control a prostitute. And so ultimately, I would say that anybody who gets any sort of training or skill anywhere, that skill can be valuable. And what you have to understand is that the system that you're trained to apply that skill to, so what do? We're told to go to college, go deep in debt, and then we get these degrees, and then we go and look for jobs with these companies. And sometimes the companies don't want you. And when they don't want you, or they don't treat you the way you're supposed to be treated, or give you what you deserve, it can make you feel that what you've learned is worthless. And it's not that it's worthless. It's not that you're worthless. It's improper positioning. One example is I heard a person explain like a bottle of water. A bottle of water can cost $1 at a gas station, $2.50 in a drugstore, $4 at a football game, $6 at a golf course, $8 on an airplane. And he said it's the water's the same. The water hasn't changed. It's the location that has changed the price of the water. That's changed the value. So a lot of times when you think that what you have isn't valuable because you're not getting the value you deserve, it's because you're not properly positioned. When I was at Syracuse University on the faculty there, all this pro-black talk that had no value to them. They didn't want to hear all this stuff I'm saying to you guys now. So I had to consciously make a decision to move away from that space where I was being tolerated to be in a space where I'd be appreciated. And this is a dynamic all of us have gone through at some point, because all of us have had scenarios maybe with business or love or whatever, where you weren't getting treated right, and then you found somebody who saw the value that maybe somebody else did not. So and a lot of this is linked to things like self-esteem and all kinds of stuff like that. So first of all, just understanding just on a fundamental level how valuable you are. If you are a good person, if you are a person who cares about your community, if you are a person who works hard, if you're a person who's constantly growing, a person who's developing skill, a person who is collaborative and cooperative and supportive of other people, you are valuable. You are a tremendous asset to the world, to your family, to the community, to everybody. The value is there whether or not your oppressor acknowledges it, right? Even if they blackball you and talk crazy about you, you're still special. You're still meaningful, relevant. You just have to find a place where that value is going to be acknowledged. So what you got to understand when you talk about building is that sometimes some of our people make a mistake. They make a very fundamental mistake, in my opinion, which is that they forget that they think that they're white. Right. So what do I mean by this? And this is all part of the system. This is why I don't believe if I had children right now, I would send them to the Muhammad University of Islam to be educated far before
let's go.
Any public school in Chicago. Right. Because I've spoken at the Muhammad University of Islam. And when I tell you those 12-year-olds are asking me questions that grad students normally ask, I said, why are we not funding schools like this? We stop acting like you can't educate black kids. You just don't want to. But down the street, they got schools that are getting insane amounts of funding that are not educating children, don't have one single child in the building that can read or do math at grade level. This is deliberate sabotage. They're deliberately taking your most valuable asset, your children, and they're destroying them intentionally, almost like dropping them in a trash compactor. So effectively, for us as black people, I think that we have to really understand that a lot of the problems really start at birth that lead me to grow up feeling like no matter how hard I work and how good I am at what I do, I have to constantly engage with these individuals who don't like me or engage in this system. Like I'm fighting racism by going up to that white man and tell him who I am and who you think you are, and Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff. And I really think that when you really sort of hit that level of enlightenment, you realize, I think I'm gonna disengage. Like in a bad relationship, if I really want a woman to appreciate me, I might fight with her all day. But then when I realize she don't love me, there's somebody else who probably does, I'm just gonna wish her well and walk away, and put myself in a different situation. So I think that when you're talking about, to your point, you have somebody that has that skill and they want to contribute, they want to build. First thing they have to understand is that there are so many things that you can do in the community that have value, but you can't do it all by yourself, and you may not have everything you need. So your college degree is valuable. Congratulations. But you need other skill that is more relevant to the situation you're dealing with. You're not white. White people have a tremendous infrastructure of thousands of businesses, thousands of multi-billion dollar. I mean, $1 billion company in the white community is a small business, pretty much. Not small, but kind of small. Like I could go through the stock market. There's hundreds and hundreds of businesses that are worth, $1, $2, $3, $4 billion that you don't even know about. So they got the infrastructure. So they have a certain type of luxury where they can say, I don't feel like starting nothing. I don't feel like building nothing. I'm just going to go and work for somebody else. And I understand we want to do the same thing, and we should have the right to do that. But life don't work out like that. Black people don't have any friends. The country is built in a certain way where we are stigmatized. We have the scarlet letter on our foreheads, especially the Black man. They don't want no strong, intelligent, capable Black man in that space. That's a competitor. You eliminate your competitors. That whole male mammal instinct kicks in, and he's like, oh, he's too smart, he's too sharp, he's gonna take what I got, he might take my woman, get him out of here. I'll hire his wife. I'll hire his wife. Right. I'll hire the gay man. I'll hire the beta male. But I do not want the Black leaders, strong alphas in this space. So I'm gonna put them in prison or whatever, right? So effectively, this is the reality. And I think starting from reality will help you understand things like, okay, as a Black man, it's not fair that I have a PhD and I busted my butt to do all this stuff, but yet I still have other skills I must obtain to obtain whatever type of freedom I want, but I got to do it. So what does that mean? That means that, this is another thing I'll talk about in my book, every Black child in our community, every single one of them needs to learn how to start a business by the age of 12, just as a rite of passage. Everyone, just in case they get out here in the world and the world doesn't treat them right, doesn't give them opportunities. Because when your kids need to eat, they don't want to hear, well, daddy can't feed me because the white man won't take care of him and give him a job. That's just not going to work. Your children still won't respect you. Your wife is still going to want to be looking at somebody else. It's unfair. It stinks. Like, she's supposed to love you no matter what and all this. I didn't grow up in that world. I think that as men, there are just things we have to figure out how to do, because war is not fair and you are at war. And there's no room for self-pity in the middle of a battle. So picking up those additional skills, every person that is intelligent, it doesn't take long. Do a weekend class on entrepreneurship. Watch some YouTube videos. In the Black Business School, we have thousands of people that are a part of that. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. And the other thing too is that when you're talking about building a nation, one of the things that I think about the Mormons, and how the Mormons and Brigham Young a couple hundred years ago, they were being persecuted, they were being mistreated. White folks treat us bad, but they treat each other bad too. If you know the history, which y'all do, I know. And so they decided to go out west to get this land, to just kind of get away from it all. And they were looking for this Great Salt Lake, and he didn't take everybody. He only took a couple hundred families in covered wagons. And they went out west, and of course, they ran into the Native Americans. They were getting killed, and I think a third of them died on this journey. So they get out to this place where there are no jobs. There's not a McDonald's down the street. There's no public school set up, and they literally had to just start with what they had. So the dentist might have been a guy who puts shoes on horses, right? But he's like, well, I can put a shoe on a horse, I can fix your teeth, right? Or the bank was a guy that had a stove, and he kept people's, I don't even know if they used for money, but he would keep your stuff in the stove, and that was the bank, right? They just built what they could with what they had. Now, if you move forward a couple hundred years later, not even a couple hundred years, the Mormon church, I don't know if y'all saw this, but they were on the cover of the Wall Street Journal because they found out that they had $100 billion in wealth that nobody knew about. Like they have just stacked up $100 billion.
Come on.
Yeah, and that to me is a reflection of a culture that is built on wealth accumulation and wealth preservation, and also an understanding that your economic security is a very important part of the security of your community. And so I think that we can learn from lessons like that. And one thing I would say is that if I'm looking for people to want, just like I was saying a little bit of that in the video, but I would say if I'm looking to really build something, right? Because I thought about that. I said, you know, we look around the community and everything's torn down and broken down and burned down, and you just, you know, or kids come home from college, there's no place for them to go work or anything, and you say, well, gosh, nothing's built. Well, the question I would ask myself is, well, who's supposed to do the building? Right. You know, are we passively waiting for somebody else to come build? Because that ain't gonna happen. We know what's happening. Democrat, Republican, all they ain't doing it. What about the people who allegedly are the so-called successful Negroes? Many of them don't have the skills to build. You know, it's like if you think about a car, right? To have a car, you need somebody who can design the car. You need somebody who can build the car. You need somebody who knows how to drive the car, and then you need somebody who can ride in the car. Mm-hmm. So if everybody shows up to the car lot and says I'm only qualified to ride in the car, well, then ain't nobody gonna go nowhere.
Come on, Doc.
Right? You need diversity. You need somebody that's going to build that thing, design it, build it, drive it, all these things. So you need all those skills. And I don't know if we have all those skills. I think that we have a whole lot of people that are able to go and get a job, but not a lot of people who can create those jobs. So we need that whole generation of builders. So a couple of key elements. One, we need just millions of people that know how to just fill out the form for an LLC, know how to delegate. And in our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program for kids, we call it Building a Sturdy Child, STERDY. I got to write down the acronym so I can remember what it is. The S stands for systems, understanding systems. It's very scientific, right? If you understand how to build your wealth with a system, you can make more money than you can by building it with labor. Systems are much stronger than just getting up and going to work every day. T is for technology, right? Technology kind of runs the world right now. Understanding how technology works and then applying that to some sort of system, those things scale, and that's how people end up making lots of money. The E stands for entrepreneurship. Every child in our community should know how to start a business just in case they can't get a job. R stands for relationships. In order for me to really truly build, like, so for example, if I'm that chemist like you had mentioned earlier, I may not have everything I need, right? But if I can form healthy relationships with other people who can supplement my skill set, then we can work together. We can get things done as a team or as an economic family. And the D stands for delegation. One of the challenges I had as an entrepreneur was I was used to doing everything by myself, right? Because because that ability to trust other people to do things wasn't always there because of the trauma I had and things like that. So by learning delegation, like as a conscious skill, not just hoping I'd figure it out, but reading books. How do you delegate tasks? How do you structure the organization so that you can say, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. That allows you to expand what you're doing. Think about it like football. There is no football player in the history of this world that could by himself beat even an eighth grade football team. There's no one guy. There's no one guy, or high school, let's say, right? There's no one guy who can play every position. Right, you can't do that, right? So football teams are big systems. The wide receivers and the linebackers and the quarterback and the cornerbacks and all these different positions that are put the coaching staff, all these different roles. And so, in a way, what I think is that when you're talking about defeating something as insidious as systematic racism, we have to understand you need a system to fight a system. You need an army to fight an army. And unfortunately, we have a model of leadership that sometimes ends up focusing so much on one person that it doesn't allow you to kind of understand the necessity to have that entire system. So long story short, I would say, or maybe longer story, not as long. I would say that generally, when you're talking about building a community, you need those people that are going to create the businesses, but then you also need those people that can do the tangible skills necessary to actually build something. And that's one thing that we let go of. And remember, we don't need other people's permission to re-embrace this. We're doing this in the Black Business School. I encourage everybody to look into this. So many carpenters and plumbers and HVAC people are doing so well. And if you have those skills and you know how to start a business, you will make more money than most of your friends who graduated from college, especially if you know how to manage that wealth. People who know how to, if I'm looking to build this house, I'm not looking for a business manager or an accountant per se. That's not the first place. I'm looking for somebody who knows how to design and build a house. I'm looking for the carpenters and the plumbers and all this other stuff. So if you're talking about building a community, the question is, do you have enough builders? I don't think that we do, because we allowed people to destroy trillions of dollars of our human capital by aiming everybody for college. So now they're stuck in this student loan corporate slavery debt, and it doesn't really amount to anything. And it's actually led to a decline in Black wealth over the next 20 years.
Well, see, that's what I love about the STEM files, right? Because the STEM files highlights those individuals that we don't think we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, sometimes a person don't even realize they got a geologist 3 doors down from them, but they now know because of the STEM files. That's what this platform is all about. Where are these skilled individuals? Where are these learned individuals who can apply what they know to build a community? But we actually short on time right now. I know you have another engagement.
It's totally my fault. I enjoy talking to y'all so much, man. I hate the fact I do have to go, but I love what you're doing, and I agree with you, man. That you gotta bring voices to the voiceless, and the reason I was real happy to come on this podcast to hang out with you brothers is because we need our Black-owned media, because unfortunately, with Black men especially, they push the athletes and comedians and all that to the top, and they ignore all of the hardworking men that have so many other skills that are extremely important. Because unfortunately, the world kind of puts us in this typecast box. If we showing up and we're rapping or playing basketball, then they understand that. But when we show up and say, no, actually, I'm a neuroscientist, that kind of doesn't compute, right? But it computes for us. And this is one of the reasons why your platform is so important. So I appreciate the great work that you're doing. Absolutely.
We appreciate you, bro. We definitely appreciate you for coming through onto the platform. But Jabril, did you there was something that Dr. Boyce was asking us before we went live, right?
Yes. So if you would allow us, Doc, as you take your lead, before we went live, you asked us about where this idea, this platform came from. So if you would allow us, we could definitely go into that. Tariq, I know I always like when you start, because you're able to really take it from before I even got involved, and then go on from there. So let's kind of go into that as we close.
Yeah. So as Jabril said, Dr. Watkins asked us, what's this platform all about? Where did it come from? And this platform is the media arm of a research and development company that we started back in 2015. And the research and development company is designed to bring research and development, the industry of research and development, to Black and brown communities, right? So we want to be able to help you with your inventions, your innovations, your ideas, help you get to the level of patent pending or what have you. So Original Man Scientific, which is the parent company of this podcast or this platform, because I and Dr. Watkins, please forgive me for this. I hate the word podcast, but
that's okay. I get it.
Everybody has one. It's like, okay, you got a podcast, but no. Yeah. We wanted to first and foremost, okay, now that we have with this company that we formed to help people with their inventions and their ideas, let's show the people who these people really are, what they're all about. And that's where the STEM files came from, is to highlight the talent that we have, or that we were using to flesh out these scientific ideas. Jabril, did you want to add to it?
Absolutely. I would just add, several years ago, I was watching a webcast out of headquarters in Chicago, and a sister, who I think was over to blackmall.com, said something very profound that stuck with me. She said that she didn't feel that we as a people, as far as business and just in general, were so much disunited as we were disconnected. And one of the things that you mentioned, that you're not sure if there are enough builders, I would not necessarily retort, but I would say I think there's more than we know, but we don't highlight them or prioritize that as being the sexy, entrepreneurial path to go after. You were talking about going to college as opposed to building and building a paradigm. See, if the paradigm shifted and we were in control, the college route, getting a job, is fine. It's all about time and place. So what we want people to understand is, for those of us who continue to go at this system and cry out because, well, our ancestors died for this and we have this. That's okay, but we should spend less time, crying over or trying to get people to do for us, as opposed, and more time on actually bringing our ancestors' dreams to reality, right? So as you mentioned, it's separation or death. If we want to have our own paradigm and control what it is, we have to distance ourselves from that which keeps us in the position that we're in. And that's all what kind of went into our building this platform, because we want to show people not only are we Black in STEM, but at its core, Black is STEM historically, and it will be that way through the future. So that's really what the STEM Files is, and we strive to be that voice of STEM talent and Black culture across the diaspora.
Well, I'm honored that you brothers had me out here. I appreciate you, the invitation. Thank you so much. And I will be. I'm a fan. I'm a subscriber now. So thank you for bringing me in, man. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And by the way, my website's boycewatkins.com. If if it helps anybody. So thank you guys. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you. And also shout out to Sister Akila for making the connection. Akila and Honda, she definitely made the connection to make sure that we had our brother on the platform. She was just on the platform about 2 weeks ago, and she helped us out on that. So thank you so much for that.
She's the next superstar. I can't wait to see.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to see her blow up.
Already a superstar, absolutely. But family, this has been another edition of the STEM Files. We serve as the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. I'm Tariq Cardiac, Jabrarian engineer, Dr. Boyce Watkins. We will be having a part 2, for sure. All right, family. Right. So thank you so much for tuning in. Peace.
All right. Peace.
You believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. When we teach men, we teach them